Today on the LucidCTA Podcast, I'm joined by Mikel Lindsaar, CEO of StoreConnect, for a conversation that spans architecture, e-commerce, platform strategy, and what's really happening in the Salesforce ecosystem right now. If you're an architect, an admin, an engineer, a marketer, or you run an e-commerce business on Salesforce, this episode is for you. If you're trying to understand how commerce, core CRM, and platform strategy truly come together on the platform, this episode is for you. And if you're changing careers, like I did about 10 years ago, and you're looking for a way to break into the Salesforce ecosystem, this episode is especially for you. We go deep on the tech behind StoreConnect, talk about the state of the Salesforce ecosystem, unpack the Heroku news and what it means for builders, explore AI and autonomous agents, and we even create a practical recipe for anyone who is looking to pivot into this ecosystem and land their first role. Before we jump in, I need a quick favor. We're in the mid-February and channel is sitting at 966 subscribers. I'm right on the edge of 1,000. After that, the next milestone is 3,000 public watch hours to unlock YouTube partner benefits and reinvest more time and resources into conversations like this. If you're getting value from these interviews, please subscribe, like the video, ring the bell so you don't miss future episodes, and drop a comment with your biggest takeaway or question for Mikel. This engagement really helps the channel grow and allows me to dedicate more time to producing these conversations. Thank you, and let's get started. Hello, folks. My name is Svet Voloshin. I'm LucidCTA, and I am here today with Mikel Lindsaar, the CEO and founder of StoreConnect. He's coming live to us from Sydney, Australia, and of course, I'm here in Fairfax, Virginia. We're separated by 16 hours time difference. So it's morning for
and 1 day.
Yeah, in 1 day. Yes, you're in the future.
Yep, the future. I'm in the future. The future is awesome. It's what I tell my all American friends. So you'll love it when you get here. It's amazing, especially down under.
Excellent. Well, that's what we hope to hear, because you never know these days. There are doomsayers about AI and this and that. So we'll talk about some of that here. So tell us a little bit about StoreConnect. What is it? What makes it cool? And why are you here today?
StoreConnect is, well, first off, thanks very much for having me. I should probably say that. I did interrupt your introduction, so my bad.
That's all right.
But StoreConnect is a complete e-commerce point of sale and content management system built on top of Salesforce. That's probably the simplest nutshell. One of my clients actually told me one day that it's the best bits of Shopify, WordPress, plus a point of sale system all built within Sales Cloud. Mm-hmm. And that really summarizes the capability matrix. And I guess, especially with this audience, architects, you guys and girls don't need to be sold solutions. You need to be told what can the thing do and how can it help me achieve the architectural decisions that we're trying to achieve. And really, at the end of the day, I'm an architect. I'm a programmer. I love all that. And I really built StoreConnect to be the solution that I would want from I need an insanely flexible website, e-commerce, content management, permission structured system that's really fast, mm-hmm. really scalable, and built within Salesforce. And that's really, in a nutshell, what StoreConnect is. And, we also built it to be simple for the simple use cases, but capable for the really complex ones, which means, an architect could go to our StoreConnect Academy website and do the fundamentals course and have a full e-commerce platform and content management system platform running on the internet within an hour, and that's something that is not normal in the Salesforce ecosystem, So we really are trying to disrupt that whole scene.
I see. So, and this is not the first time you actually created such a disruption. So you built and exited multiple SaaS companies. You created a Ruby mail library with 550 million downloads. So
I think it's like 680 million downloads.
680. Okay, yeah. So that went up. Since the last.
That actually, I have to say that's really humbling. I make a joke that it's more, but I sort of make that joke in disbelief.
Mm-hmm.
It's like,
sure,
seriously, 680 million downloads. The human brain can't comprehend that number. It's becoming almost academic. But when people ask me, well, have you done any software development? I'm like, well, yeah. I mean, but I didn't sit there allowing each download to go out the door. It's really crazy that has happened. So, but yeah.
So that's only going to accelerate. And so the question is, you partially touched on that. What would you say is one architectural principle that you refused to compromise on when you created StoreConnect?
Oh my gosh.
If you had to pick one, it's hard to do. You mentioned so many, but it must have been something you learned.
Yeah, and for the listeners, Svet and I met at Architects Dreaming in it was Arizona, wasn't it?
Arizona, yeah, exactly. Scottsdale.
Ago. I've done a lot of traveling this year.
Sure.
But, and he sat in a whole hour-long pretty much presentation and drilled me on a lot of these points. So you're getting a very pre-vetted guest on this interview podcast. So that's you mentioned all those things. But the biggest challenge I had, I don't know if I regret it, because regret implies failure to take ownership or failure to take responsibility of something. I regret that because I don't want to be responsible for doing it. I don't think I really ran into that. We ran into a lot of challenges building StoreConnect on Salesforce. Like, probably one of the hardest architectural builds I've ever done. And I say that with love for the Salesforce platform and everything else, but Salesforce have some very, very strict security, and which is good, obviously, but also very strict internal decisions that are not apparent from the outside. I mean, little things like you can't put a trigger on a price book entry. Right. This sort of thing seems, okay, we'll just do a workaround. Like, what does it matter? When someone goes in and edits a price book entry, if we need something to happen, we'll put a little button at the top and you click that button and it updates whatever it needs to update. We're good, right? But an e-commerce platform, like, what is the one thing you need real-time data on? It's got to be the price, right?
Yes.
So then every time a client changes the price, we have to work out how to try and get that data back into our system without a trigger. And these are the sort of challenges that you run into on StoreConnect that are not obvious when you start building this product, that you just have to twist yourself in knots over. And one of the architectural decisions that we did make, that is probably the one that has caused us the most pain by far, is, and we still have this as a decision, is wherever possible, use core Salesforce Sales Cloud objects and fields.
I love to hear that.
And that's a simple thing to say, but oh my God. So, I mean, little examples. If you add a custom field onto product on the product 2 table, as we've had to, I mean, in e-commerce, if you open up product 2 in Sales Cloud, it's got like 5 fields or something. Like, it's
minimal. Yeah.
Yeah. So we've added, and it's all on our help website, by the way. You can go to our help website and type in product 2, and it will show a full field list with the field type, what it's for, is it required, the whole lot.
Right.
So we've added, 100 and something fields to product 2. But you can't add a certain type of relationship field into product 2. You can't make product 2 depend on something else. Salesforce just won't allow it. So suddenly you've got this situation where product might legitimately belong to something, but you can't put any relationship controls on that. You can't unique it and things like this because the platform just won't let you. Or we use the order record for a cart, right? Mm-hmm. So you're doing a checkout and the client is doing that checkout on the website and they've completed that cart and it synchronizes into Salesforce as an order record. And then someone on the back end in Salesforce moves it from out of draft status into anything else. which automatically activates the order, which then locks down all the order items. And then a process might trigger to calculate sales tax. And you come in to update the order with the new sales tax and you can't because now it's activated. But that activation, you have no way of knowing on the front end that activation has happened beyond guessing on the status, because there isn't it just errors, right?
Right.
So these are the sort of architectural decisions that have just been painful. I mean, it's been so painful. And the reason it's been painful is that we're trying to build StoreConnect on a system that only has effectively data loader access to Salesforce, right? We have no user interface access per se. We've worked around that. But we're basically doing database sync. And we can get into how we do that later, which is a bit magic on how we've gotten around some of these problems and how do we resolve these synchronization errors when something happens in the Salesforce side that should be there but isn't. But that's probably the hardest. If I was to do StoreConnect again, would I do that? I mean, probably, because every architect that I talk to, when I say we use, account, contact, product to, price book entry, order item, asset, campaign member, when I list out those core fields, they go, oh, finally.
Yes, I know. I'm in the same camp. In fact, if I may summarize, or here's what I got out of your explanation just now. So you can honestly say, and this is after sitting through the presentation and having this interactive conversation back in Arizona, you decided to feel the pain of your implementing architect or engineer or admin so that they wouldn't have to. So you went through that whole exercise, seems like, and made it easier. You put yourself as someone who created the product, just say, okay, so this is what the folks are going to experience, right? All these fields and all these various limitations, and the fact that the product object can scale infinitely, but also doesn't have an owner field, and asset can scale almost infinitely as well. However, there are problems, there are limitations associated with that. Okay. So
I think I don't know that I actually ever made that conscious decision. I just wanted to make it easy. But, there are some real benefits on this, as you mentioned. Like, we have a client who happens to know or needs to load up all the addresses of every contact that they can sell to, because they sort of sell a service where they base it based on the square footage of the house that you're in, right? And they already know every address of every possible customer. So what they've done is they've loaded all of those up into the asset table, and the asset table doesn't have a row limit and doesn't count, So
it's data storage.
It doesn't come to storage. So these sorts of decisions of using those native things, on the flip side, if we had just built our own asset record, which would have been much easier, suddenly loading up those 10 million addresses is now actually chewing up their storage. Like, do we want to do that?
Archive and so on.
Yeah, I think it was a really interesting decision. I think the only thing that I wish I did was lent into that a bit more in the earlier days, but I think we got the balance pretty good.
So on selfishly, individually, I can say that I'm coming up on a 2-year anniversary since I became a CTA, and it took me 3.5 years to get there. Had I discovered StoreConnect back then, it would have probably saved me a couple of years in preparation, because this is like a case study on how to properly use the standard objects, how to fully utilize Sales Cloud and beyond.
Can you expand on that a little bit? Because that genuinely confuses me, and because not that StoreConnect's not a great product, I love it, but I'm biased. It's my favorite, it's my baby. But isn't doing the architect, and maybe this might help the audience, I don't know, but isn't doing the architect exams and things about how you would use Salesforce in the way that Salesforce thinks best from their learnings and issues? And surely StoreConnect wouldn't come into that. Salesforce aren't going to look at your answer and go, oh, he's using StoreConnect, that's fine. But is that the case, or how does that actually work?
Oh, I can definitely explain. So who's interviewing who now? So,
Yeah, right. Oh, there you go.
I love
you
it.
interviewed me. We should have put the disclaimer in.
No. That's a great question. So best practices definitely come into play, and when it comes to the CTA review board, so this is a board exam. So there are 3 judges, and they are basically asking you questions live. So you first have the prep time, which is 3 hours. Then it's 45 minutes of you doing the presentation, and nobody interrupts you at all. Which is, none of us are used to that, but that's the one great feature about the exam. And then the next 40 minutes is when some of the best minds in the world when it comes to Salesforce and enterprise architecture, they grill you. So it's not just about Salesforce and on-platform solutions and standard objects versus custom objects, but it's everything under the sun, including external systems. That's why I'm actually also excited to talk to you about your infrastructure built on Heroku and where it's going after that. So the reason I'm saying that StoreConnect is just such a nice blend, and I can't wait to get into that, nice blend between the best practices of Salesforce, because you can say, oh yeah, I'll just build everything custom. And so if you can actually tell that story and explain how that is more optimal than using the standard objects, like for instance, well, why didn't you decide to go with the asset because it has all these benefits? You can say, well, I need to use skinny table so that I can query it faster. Well, it's not available in the asset object, therefore. But okay, so but it's optimized for other stuff. And then you go into that whole rabbit hole. Yeah. And most solutions that are managed packages on Salesforce, they have enormous data models, 100 plus objects, and you have to learn all of that. I mean, if you also CPQ, let's say, right? It was growth by acquisition. So that's an insane data model right there. But if your data model is considerably smaller because it's easier to understand a system, easier to get into it because you already know Sales Cloud, Service Cloud, like the back of your hand. I literally had to memorize, and all of us had to memorize these data models. Then you say, okay, so that you're like 30% of whatever the way there. You're learning a new technology, right? And so then we get into the whole external side of things, like where is Heroku come into play? So that's what I meant. It's a truly deserved compliment. So if you can get a compliment from a CTA, that means you've definitely done something that we would have loved to have seen. So, all right. Nice. So let me ask you now this. Now I'm flipping the script. I'm back to interviewing you. So you described at the Architect Dreaming Talk something called the Thanos Trap, technically handicapped and not operating synchronized. So At what point did you realize e-commerce inside of Salesforce was falling into that trap?
Yeah. So first off, I have to give credit to that acronym to Tony, one of my team. He heads up our partner team, and he was trying to describe to the partner network what makes StoreConnect different. And I think this might be easier if I share a slide.
Please do.
Let me pull this up. And good. So this is actually the talk that I gave at Architect Dreaming, which is what you're referring to. So the Thanos Trap. So, this classic sort of scene out of the Marvel movies where he clicks his fingers and nothing happens, right? He's like, what? So this happened every Salesforce platform. You build this whole thing and you go click and you go, hang on a minute, that didn't work. So what actually happened is the inevitable occurs when the business is technically handicapped because they're not operating synchronized. And what we mean by that is everyone has some sort of a CRM, be it Salesforce, Pipedrive, a spreadsheet, like it exists. And then they build all these things around it. It could be a website platform, an e-commerce site, an accounting system, a point of sale system. And all of this hangs out on the edges and has to get data from the CRM. Now, at this point, most business owners are like, okay, I can manage this. Where it breaks down is when you have to do this, right? Mm-hmm. So the website gets an order form, which has to now go to a page on the e-commerce site, which has to check the accounting system if there's stock, and then that also has to update the point of sale system to make sure that no one's selling the thing we just sold, which also has to get back into the CRM. And then what happens is that on each of these connections, we start creating data silos, right? So the point of sale system and the e-commerce system knows something about the state of the environment that the CRM doesn't. And the point of sale and website knows something that the CRM doesn't. And this creates this inevitability of nothing's under control and all of these multiple data silos across the entire system. And if you wanted a nutshell slide of what we were trying to fix with StoreConnect, it's this, right? It's how do we remove all those blue circles and remove those data silos? And every time that you add one of those blue circles and one of those data silos, your ability to maintain the platform plummets. And it's not even a linear value, right? It's an exponential value. And it can get so bad that you get to the point where you can't expand your platform because you don't have the technical resources to add another data silo or another integration point. And that's where businesses go to die technologically. I'm not sure what the next slide is. So what we did with StoreConnect was this. So we build StoreConnect inside of Salesforce. And what that means is that the website, the e-commerce, and the point of sale basically are that single source of truth inside of Salesforce. There isn't any external system. And of course, once you're inside of Salesforce with all of that data, it's almost trivial to then add another couple of products like our partners at Accounting Seed, where now you've got an accounting system running on the same data that your e-commerce and point of sale system is running, or Rootstock. Now you've got an ERP running next to your accounting system, which is running next to and it's all one source of data, or Avalara, another partner of ours, where now you've got tax calculations and lodgements that automatically know when every sale happens from your point of sale and your e-commerce and knows exactly when to file all of those sales tax things. I mean, those four systems together could handle 80, 90% of businesses out there. And the administrative burden reduction is just insane.
So then basically you're utilizing Salesforce as a system of record as well as the system of engagement, which is what it's meant to be. Exactly. And instead of creating this type of spaghetti integration, which is what you very cleanly displayed on that.
I think we've seen this diagram.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
They always feel it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Nothing said. We didn't even touch on the performance aspect of things and how things may be dropped in when the data transfers from one environment to the next. Okay, so that's basically what you say when you say native to Salesforce. It actually is built on Salesforce, right? So technically, where does the platform end, Salesforce platform? Where does StoreConnect begin? I'm sure you get that question all the time.
Yeah. So again, let me do this. I'll share this slide. This is actually the only podcast interview I've ever come with notes. Because I know Svet's not going to take any prisoners with me technically.
That's what we're all about. For architects by architects, right?
Yeah, right. So StoreConnect is all of these functions. I'm not going to go through all of them, but all of this is within Sales Cloud. So, e-commerce, point of sale, content management, all of that is within the Sales Cloud platform. And what I mean by that is the data objects of record is built in as a managed package on top of the base Sales Cloud object licenses. And that actually gives us a really interesting side thing, is that you can install StoreConnect on ProSuite and it can run.
Okay. For the layperson, what does that mean exactly? You can install it on ProSuite.
You don't need Sales Cloud super unlimited agentic plus licenses to boot StoreConnect.
So it's cheaper.
Yeah. But it means two things. One, it's cheaper, although we don't recommend running on ProSuite because you don't get many flows. You can't use Apex, things like that. But the point more is that it's possible because we're not doing anything crazy we're not building external, we're just using the Sales Cloud objects. what this also means is that those Sales Cloud objects are common to every cloud.
Right.
So StoreConnect works on Sales Cloud, Service Cloud, Gov Cloud, Nonprofit Cloud, Education Cloud, MPSP, EDA, the Manufacturing Cloud, all of the clouds. StoreConnect will just install and work because those Sales Cloud objects that we depend on are core to every cloud's platform. They're all included. So it makes StoreConnect a highly flexible system.
Gotcha. Okay, so we're talking about the account contact opportunity, account contact relationship. You mentioned asset and order.
Accounts, all of that.
Case, maybe. Are you guys using cases for anything?
No, not directly. Okay. But you can build StoreConnect, a front end on StoreConnect that could show case records to the logged in customer, for example. You could build that with StoreConnect. So anyway, this is all built in. And your question was, where does the relationship end? This is a slide that we don't often give out because it's got a lot of confusion on it. But for architects, screw it. Why not? So
that's what we're here to demystify, yeah.
We've got the Salesforce client org here in the top left, and it has all the orchestration, Apex and flows, and all the objects, standard and custom, right? That org is where the client lives, and that's their entire interaction with StoreConnect is done through this platform, right? And this is a really core tenet of StoreConnect as well. We don't have a separate admin interface outside of Salesforce. Everything that you do to manage, modify, or change StoreConnect is done through a Salesforce login. This creates a huge number of benefits for us. Probably the biggest one is that it means that we can offload permissioning and security and access to Sales Cloud or Salesforce itself.
Right.
And this is really important for our SOC 2, GDPR, ISO 27001, and PCI compliance, because the client can then dictate how locked down they want their org.
Sure.
And we did a build with a bank. And if you are a SaaS company and you ever want to go through pain of compliance, sell your SaaS product to a bank, and you'll soon find out what compliance means. So we made it through that process because when they ask questions like, how can we do post-intrusion detection lockdown of the platform? I could say, you use your standard Salesforce tools. And they're like, oh, okay. And like end of conversation, right? So it was very, very powerful. So these objects are synchronized to a Heroku server that we run and we maintain, we scale via something called Heroku Connect. And that does a two-way synchronization. Now, Heroku Connect has a whole bunch of tools around how it synchronizes. We've taken that up to 11 on the, if you ever watch Spinal Tap, turn it past 10 all the way to 11. If you haven't seen that little film clip, go Google it. It's hilarious. So you've got Heroku Connect sitting in between doing the synchronization. We've added stuff on top of that, which makes it a 2-second synchronization in most cases. And unless you're doing like a million record update, in which case it might take a little bit longer, but all of that happens within Heroku Connect. And that then connects to our servers, which sit on the front end. And this whole Heroku StoreConnect account platform basically is there to make sure that the end user down here on the browser, gets access to the data really fast, okay? Now, what you'll notice is that there's no connection between the end user browser and your Salesforce org. So this does a couple of things. One, it's better for security. But two, there's no API requests being chewed up in your Salesforce org by each client request. And three, there's no user login requirements in your Salesforce org for your end users.
So no Experience Cloud here.
None. There is zero Experience Cloud in this stack. You can use Experience Cloud. If you want to, you can sort of build a little Experience Cloud on your Salesforce org, and you can embed it on a membership page within StoreConnect or something like that if you wanted to. But there's no requirement for Experience Cloud. If you wanted to use Experience Cloud also, say, for single sign-on or something like that, you could also do that. That's no problem. We support that. But the point is you don't have to. And this really changes the script on where you're going to invest your beans and your money, because building a StoreConnect app is quite simple. It's just HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and our Liquid templating language, which was an open source package built by Shopify. So the architecture, we separate the high volume traffic from the back end system of record. And I think that's probably the key feature of StoreConnect, is that you're not having to hammer the system of record directly to do this. And we just maintain all of that in synchronization. And then we send our billing and usage data over to our own Salesforce org separately. But other than that, that's the platform. And it's quite simple. It's 8 years of solid R&D to make it work. But I think, speaking to your earlier point, we took the pain of how to make it work out of the architect's mind. And yeah, that's what we've built. The cool thing also is that everything, these four, I actually just produced another version of this slide where all four of these things, the Heroku Connect, the Salesforce Client, the Salesforce Store Connect, is all sitting within the Salesforce Trust platform, right? So all of these communications are all happening internally within the Salesforce VPNs and things like that, which is another important security point to think of.
Not to be confused with the trust layer, which has to do with Agentforce. We're just basically talking about, well, so you're showing the HTTPS callouts, Heroku Connect, that's pretty standard using the whatever the latest version of TLS is going to be. On your diagram, it's 1.2 over here. But if you wanted to, let's say, I don't know why you would want to in this case, but encrypt your data at rest using Shield platform encryption, you could do that.
We have clients that do that.
Well, the banks, like you mentioned, like the banks, those edge cases, but then you could use Heroku Shield on one side and Salesforce Shield on the other side. Well, that's all fine and good. Now, this is now the Heroku and the future conversation. You know that was going there. So you just recently wrote about this. And in fact, as soon as the news hit, your post hit as well on LinkedIn with these flashing red lights. I remember reading that. And so how did that announcement affect your long-term technical roadmap?
So I have been preparing this for a year. About a year ago, if we go back a year from now, maybe a year and a half, it was very obvious that there wasn't a lot of investment happening in Heroku. The platform was stagnating a bit. And then about a year ago, they got a new CTO, they got a whole bunch of new engineers, they made all these new announcements. And I went, oh, okay, maybe they're coming back. Maybe that's happening. But I'd already gone, what's our plan B? Like that had already formed in my head.
Of course.
So about a year ago, we kicked off a whole development task of developers looking at how we can replace out Heroku completely on our platform. So I've already spent 6 figures on this, which annoys me that I had to do it, but I'm very glad I did, because now we're in a situation where our clients contact us and say, oh yeah, this is the plan B. It's not a problem. So first off, there's zero impact to us right now, because what they've stopped selling is the enterprise SKU for Heroku, which means all their enterprise sales people are going away. The platform is still there, and arguably I can't really see the platform going away, because Trailhead runs on Heroku, Data Cloud runs on Heroku in many ways. There's a lot of core features that run on Heroku. Just give me 1 second. I have a requirement every morning, no matter what I'm doing. If my daughter's going to school, I say goodbye.
Of course. I have the same requirement, by the way. When my daughter goes to school, she drives herself these days, and I always that means I still have to keep waking up at 6 or shortly thereafter.
Nice.
So
this whole Heroku thing was me. We'd already started building the replacement, and it doesn't affect us right now because they're not selling the Heroku SKU. So we're already an enterprise customer. We already spend a lot of money every year with Heroku. They're not eager for us to move off the platform.
Right.
But what we've already started doing is experiments around how can we run our services outside of the Heroku stack and maintain that and do all that sort of thing. So we're well advanced down that line. In 2 years or 3 years or 4 years, if Heroku go, you know what, we're not actually selling Heroku anymore, at all.
Or supporting it more. That's the bigger question.
Yeah, I mean, even at that point, I've probably still got another 4 or 5 years on the runway. Once they stop selling it.
Mm-hmm.
So one thing Salesforce are very good at, and this is kudos to them, right? They're a massive company. They have to make product decisions all the time. But one thing they are very good at is they don't turn off something that a client's depending on rapidly. It takes...
Which we appreciate, of course.
Yeah. I mean, there are objects and fields and records that you see in the Salesforce system that you look at and you go, and you just know that there's a product manager somewhere going, why is that thing still there? I'm so embarrassed that we built it that way. Why didn't we just do blah? It would have been so much better. But they don't get rid of it. It persists because they've got so many clients that have built and invested millions and billions and trillions of dollars on building solutions around that particular quirk, that changing it creates all these other problems. And so they're very, very good at that. So I don't see any short-term impact on us at all. If anything, funnily enough, that old PR line, all news is good news. Like, it doesn't matter.
There's no bad publicity, that sort of thing.
Yeah, no bad publicity. That's it. So when I announced that, I actually got back in more than one Salesforce AE saying, I've been thinking about StoreConnect for this client, or can you come and do... I got one head of nonprofits for a whole region reach out and say, hey, we've been seeing more StoreConnect opportunities in our nonprofit space. Can you come in and do an enablement with my whole team in direct response to that
post?
Heroku. Yeah. So it's been really, really interesting. And I mean, that post, I think, got 100,000 impressions, which is just shows you how much of an issue this could be for a lot of customers. So
yeah, of course.
I think Heroku handled that pretty badly in the way that it was communicated. But it's, at the end of the day, I don't fault them for wanting to not sell enterprise Heroku anymore. I mean, that actually makes a lot of sense. Any enterprise customer is going to want to be able to twiddle and tweak every little aspect of their build, and Heroku gets in the way of that because it tries to abstract the application layer. And I think that's just what they're running into. Their enterprise customers are going, but we need blah. Mm-hmm. And Heroku's like, well, we don't offer blah. Well, okay, so what do we do? Move that to Amazon, and Heroku's basically
GCP
Amazon anyway, and or GCP or whatever, right? So anyway, that's what that's about.
Yeah, there was a time a few years ago when I was at Copado, and Copado was actually using Heroku as one of its backbones, and they said, we had to start moving to GCP because Heroku was just not scaling as well, and it was just taking much longer. So I guess there have been a slew of announcements from Salesforce explaining what exactly that means. The end of sale, it doesn't mean that end of support. That means the product still runs and it'll be fine for years to come. So that it doesn't mean dump StoreConnect now, or don't consider that awesome solution as you're purchasing.
Yeah, and StoreConnect, Heroku is not the reason StoreConnect works, right? StoreConnect works because of what you went over earlier, which was we made architectural decisions to make sure Salesforce was 100% the source of truth of our data, and we depend on core objects. And those two decisions mean that the front end can actually run anywhere. And we're even playing with the idea of offering like a Java binary to certain clients where they might even launch it on their own infrastructure. Like that's actually where we could take StoreConnect if we so desired. It's not really on the roadmap right now because that's a whole slew of problems that I just don't have time to deal with. But that could be done technically with the solution that we've built. So it really just means that in the future, we might not be running on Heroku. It doesn't really matter. It could be GCP, it could be Amazon, it could be a Hertzner server running out of Brussels or something.
But yet you do have a couple of patents associated with Heroku as well, even though
I have a couple of patents associated with the way that we synchronize. It just so happens that it's in Heroku. Heroku Connect are not mentioned in the patent whatsoever.
So, okay. So tell me more about that, please. Is that patent going to survive the eventual Heroku, I guess, displacement?
Yeah. So the pattern that we've got is on our 2-second synchronization. It doesn't mention the 2 seconds, but it's got to do with that. And one of the challenges you run into when you're trying to connect one system to another is schema changes.
Mm-hmm.
And most platforms deal with this by getting you to log into system A and doing something about the schema, and then getting you to log into system B and doing something with the schema, and then making sure both of those schemas match and then turn on the schema change, right? That's fundamentally how you handle it. In StoreConnect, you can go into Salesforce and go create a record called custom data mappings, which is a custom field object that we create. And you, in that custom data mapping field, go object, S object type is product 2, field is my custom field _C, enable for read write, save. And that schema change propagates through our synchronization tooling to the other end, makes the schema changes on the other end, and then backfills the data. And then within seconds, you can start querying that new field on the front end. And we've done that for fields on existing objects, but also on entire objects. So you can go into that custom data mapping and go, I want to synchronize the case object. And then you create, these are the fields I want to synchronize. And you create all that in Salesforce, and then magically they just exist on StoreConnect. And you can just query them directly. So this idea of being able to send schema changes across a message queue, that's what our patent provides, and allows us to build highly modifiable and almost self-healing systems on top of Salesforce and StoreConnect and other platforms. Like maybe one day we connect Salesforce, StoreConnect back off to HubSpot or some other CRM. And this is, or maybe we don't even have a CRM and StoreConnect just interacts with your local database or something. There could be a lot of things that we can do with this. And that's why I called it StoreConnect and not StoreForce or something like that. Aside from that, you're not allowed to use force in an ISV.
Of course, yes. Now that sounds incredibly powerful. So you had mentioned that you do have increased interest from various nonprofits, and I know I currently work at Banjack Solutions, and we have a partnership with StoreConnect, one of a few partners that you guys have, and we do have a common client now, which is going to be Habitat for Humanity in Waco, Texas. Yeah, and so we're getting to that whole project, and so you mentioned that there are multiple components to StoreConnect. Of course, there's Salesforce, there's the actual e-commerce backend, and then there's the front end for the customers. It's all the best of both worlds, right? So let's say do we need to have multiple teams of people? Let's say one team is going to work on a website and make things look good, and it's a nice UI UX. Do we have to have a Salesforce team? Do we need to have a special backend team? Let's say we're approaching a situation where we need to build some sort of auction site for a nonprofit. How would we do that? How would we approach to compose a team of responsible parties?
So the best way to think of StoreConnect in terms of building up that team, the one thing that we find partners don't tend to have is a UI UX team. In terms of building websites and design, it's just not in their wheelhouse. However, I've just spent the last couple of weeks in my spare time directing Claude Code and a fleet of agents to help me build out a full sales StoreConnect command line interface. And my goal with that is you can run this on your local computer with Claude Code, and you can tell Claude Code to go look at a website and rebuild it as a StoreConnect theme and publish it up for preview and just have it do that. And one of the things that these new AI agents are really good at is doing the front-end design. And I now have that working as a proof of concept. We're going to be releasing it. And that means that StoreConnect development for the front-end developer can happen from within VS Code. And they can be telling their agent to build the website, move around images and things, and this agent's just communicating directly with the StoreConnect server that is running a copy of your sandbox or production code, and it can change the design of that server only for the session for your developer. It doesn't affect the main website for the whole time that you're editing. This all happens in like a sandbox on your live production data using live production code, so that you can see how the products fit and, you know, the images are all the right size and all that. And then when you're ready, you publish it, and then it synchronizes into Salesforce, and then someone in Salesforce changes the theme to the new theme or previews it or does whatever. So you've got all these layers of approval processes. So in terms of a team, you definitely need your Salesforce team, because that's where the user interface is for your customer, right? So your client's getting you to build StoreConnect. You need to build that Sales Cloud environment with all the buttons in the right spots and all the fields that they worry about and the other ones hidden and all the standard Salesforce stuff. Right?
Automation as well, of course, right?
Yeah, any automation with third-party systems like whatever it is, you know, sending out an SMS to someone saying that their auction just got beaten by someone else. Do you want to reapply?
Right.
That all happens in Salesforce. And this is a really powerful thing of StoreConnect, is that you almost never build any sort of interaction, connection, or automation on the StoreConnect front end, right? Because whenever you change the record in Salesforce, it's just on the website within a couple of seconds, and StoreConnect's only reading what's in the database. So as long as you can make Salesforce say the right thing on the right records with the right objects, StoreConnect sort of takes care of itself, if that makes sense. And this reduces your integration complexity by an order of magnitude, right? Because now you're not having to integrate website and Salesforce. You just integrate Salesforce and website just deals with it. So an auction site, for example, you might have a page on StoreConnect that's using some custom liquid queries to query the database directly to form the page. You might have some custom JavaScript on there to show some countdowns and timers and things like that. But then when that transaction happens, you might write to the local database that transaction happened, so that the next person coming in sees that transaction's happened, even though it hasn't quite synchronized across to Salesforce yet, right? And then done the return trip. Because on an auction site, 4 seconds matters.
Oh, yeah. That's a long time.
Yeah. So you would be writing that data into custom records and custom objects on StoreConnect, which is updating the database in an atomic way, so that then the next query that comes in will see the atomic change or not. Right?
Atomic means like it's all or nothing. It's either all of it's committed to the database, but not the partial.
Yeah, the classic example of the atomic thing is say you're at a bank and you go and use your credit card at 2 ATM machines and you try and withdraw. You only have $100 left in your bank account.
Record locking.
Twice, right?
Right.
Yeah. So you got to make sure that the debit happens before the next credit, which happens before the next debit. You need to sequence that. And that's what the atomic transactions do. So you can build some of that logic on the front end for the atomic transaction, but then deciding who won the auction, right? Or who to notify that they've just been beaten in the auction, all of that logic sits in Salesforce. Mm-hmm. And this is super powerful, because you might have someone phone in to the support desk and say, I want to place a bid on this thing. And the Service Cloud person makes the change, and that uses all the same tooling to notify them when they've updated that the website's using, right? So you've just halved your development process. And this is where StoreConnect becomes really, really powerful. So in terms of the teams you need your Salesforce team. You don't have to worry about the integration layer. That's handled. You need someone who knows something about web design, because you need to make it look somewhat good.
That's an Experience Cloud person or WordPress type person. Like I did WordPress before I even got into Salesforce. Yeah.
An Experience Cloud person, sure, but they'll be going, oh, this is so easy compared to before, right?
Yes.
Because it's HTML. And the other point is that if you're modifying, say, B2B commerce, and you want to modify the product card, Salesforce, to my knowledge, don't release the source code to those product cards or things. So you have to re-engineer it. StoreConnect, it's all open source. You can read exactly what the product card is with all the HTML, everything. And you can just overwrite that one template in your Salesforce org and not have to rebuild the entire site, right? So you already get a basic site template with StoreConnect, and I would say Habitat's probably going to use our nonprofit site design, which is, on GitHub and available. And I could even just quickly go to that, just give you an idea. But all of that's available as a template. So if you go to our GitHub site here, we've got our base theme here. And if you wanted to change the layout page on StoreConnect, you would come in here to layouts and you'd edit this theme layout. And you can see that you can make the changes from the opening HTML tag.
Sure.
So you could actually make your website just say hello world by itself with nothing around it and no interaction. You could do that. I mean, with great power comes great responsibility, but you could do that. But we have all these various different themes that people can use. And one of those, this is still an Experience Cloud site, our help website. We are moving it this year to StoreConnect, and I'm finally getting rid of Experience Cloud. But we've got all these different downloadable themes available where you can go and see them play out with different types of themes. So when you install StoreConnect, it looks like this. This is just our base theme. But we've got a whole bunch of different types of theme, like our nonprofit theme, our corporate theme, things like that are available for download and use. So, yeah.
Very cool. Easy to get into. Easy to adopt. All right, now talk to me a little bit about the AI and Agentforce. So you did say somewhere, I believe you've written or said in your presentation, garbage in, garbage out, right? So what makes this commerce implementation AI ready versus AI fragile?
It's very simply that everything we do is saved straight into Salesforce as a standard object or a custom object. And what that means for your Agentforce agent is you're not having to implement a data cloud layer to extract the data out of an e-commerce platform or a point of sale system, right? It's already there. Mm-hmm. So I actually did an experiment on this. I got my internal Salesforce admin who hadn't gotten around to playing with Agentforce yet. I just had him really busy. And I said to him, hey, I'm doing a demo to an education cloud team on Friday. Can you build an Agentforce interaction tooling on the website, allowing me to look up orders, place orders, query the, what's on in the thing, like what events are happening, what latest news articles. And he built it in like 2 days because he could just create Agentforce methods, which just directly queried Salesforce records. And it was very simple. And what that means is all of that is now guardrailed as well. There's that famous example of the Chrysler website chatbot, which person went along and said, hey, what's
Chevrolet, I believe. Chrysler's thing of the past at this point. It just dated themselves.
Allegedly.
Yeah, Chevy.
But yeah, this famous thing where the user came on and said, what's the best electric sedan I can buy? And the Chevrolet website replies back, go get a Tesla.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, that's not the intended outcome of that chat conversation. But this is a really good example because the Agentforce is all grounded within your Salesforce data. It's not going to do something like that.
Okay, so there's no reliability on Data Cloud in this case for Agentforce to run on StoreConnect. But
I found it really hard to get a straight answer out of Salesforce on that. I think when you buy the Agentforce SKU, it includes a certain amount of Data Cloud.
For Agentforce to work, right, but not to query the StoreConnect data because that's already on platform, right? Okay, so that's basically where it would realistically fit into a StoreConnect implementation insofar as it's necessary to run Agentforce, but it's not a necessity to work correctly with StoreConnect. Got you. Okay. Now, security and payments. So e-commerce exists so that you get paid, right? So you've got 20 plus payment gateways now. And so
we just added 2 more.
Okay. Well, congratulations on that. So how do you keep things PCI compliant? How do you abstract that complexity without turning that code base into a complete mess?
That's probably one of the most complex parts of our code base. And we basically, again, take the pain off the architect. So we build that within our front-end StoreConnect platform that gets all the penetration testing and code reviews and all of that, where I think in a couple of weeks going to get our second level. It's PCI DQ or something level of PCI compliance, which is the level between self-certification and I'm a bank. It's an amazing progression. But this level is an audited compliance level, and we're about to achieve that. So obviously we've solved it. But the way that we fundamentally do it is payment systems fall into 2 or 3 broad methods. They're either a REST API, a SOAP API, or they're an embedded platform. And we have like a templated structure that a lot of these inherit core aspects of how it works. And then we just build for each payment provider, we only build the unique aspects of that payment provider within their code base. So there's a lot of shared code across all of those payment providers, which reduces the technical debt burden.
So almost kind of like Chargent, right? If you have, if you want to implement payments on Salesforce, either Chargent or Blackthorn payments, that comes to mind. Again, like I keep coming back to the CTA exam, that all of these things you need to learn. So if somebody were to tell you...
Yeah, but the thing with StoreConnect is to set up a payment provider, you go to the store record, you add a payment provider record, you put in the API keys, and you hit save. And that now turns on payments on the website. It turns on payments it can turn on payments in the website, in the point of sale system, in our payment links that you can email or SMS to people. It also turn on payments within Salesforce. So you get a Lightning Web Component that you can open with a credit card form, which is using the same payment rails as your store's using. So it's very powerful and very quick. And you can choose your payment provider. We're not forcing you to use StoreConnect payments. And that's a really powerful thing.
One key thing to keep in mind to have PCI compliance, you do not store any payment information or a payment method on platform on Salesforce. That's something that the payment gateway or processor takes care of, and those payment methods that get tokenized. So I'm assuming, of course, you're following that prescription, of course, to a T. Otherwise, you won't be able to achieve that level of compliance.
In the payment record. So when an order happens, it creates a payment record. The only thing we save on that is the response code, the response data from the payment provider. So whatever they send back to you is okay to store is what we show on that field. So it's fine.
Pass through. Okay. Yeah. And so what happens if somebody turns on Shield platform encryption? So what happens to StoreConnect? I mean, you mentioned it just works?
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter if it's deterministic, probabilistic encryptions. So have you tested those edge cases?
Because our synchronization layer happens at effectively the OSI 7 level, like because all of our synchronization is happening at the application layer. Mm-hmm. When Shield is on, the application layer has write access in both directions. Now, if there's some edge case in Shield that I'm unaware of, but we haven't gotten there yet. We've got a couple of customers on Shield, so I'd be very interested to hear and if any architect out there wants to boot up a probabilistic or deterministic Shield environment and wants to see if StoreConnect works, you can install it for free. And if you send us a support request, we'll extend that up to 90 days for you to place StoreConnect on your own website with no cost. So just go for it. Go install it from the App Exchange. If it doesn't work, let us know. And if we can fix it, we will.
It sounds like a challenge to me. So challenge accepted. Maybe I'll be the first one to actually do that because that's the next thing for me. All right. And so just, respecting your time, we don't have a whole lot left here. So you built...
Explore other things.
I'm sorry?
I'm more than happy to do this again if you want to explore other things. I have a very soft point for architects and developers because I am one. And,
yes.
Whenever I hit that thing in StoreConnect that doesn't quite work the way I want, it frustrates the absolute bejesus out of me, and I end up doing pull requests. So I'm a CEO. I think in the last month, I've shipped 7 features on StoreConnect into production code.
Yourself.
Right? So I'm very deep. Yeah. I'm very deep in the code. I really want to make sure that works. And then, I also do all the sales and whatever. But
And podcasts looks like, so you're a nerd's nerd, basically, right?
I'm a nerd's nerd. I just love, I love fixing it so it's right. It can work and not be right. I like making it right, and that's something that I just have a passion on.
Yeah, and yet you have time to say goodbye to your daughter and as she goes to school. I remember this. So after a full day in Arizona, and you were probably jet lagged to nth degree, and you said, I saw you in the evening. You said, I'm going for a 5-kilometer walk, which is something I do every night to kind of rest my mind. So there's certain non-negotiables with you, right? That's probably what makes you so successful.
1 mile, 5 kilometers every day, either walking or running. And I've been doing that now for a year and a half, including my birthday, Christmas. Even one time I was stuck in Dallas airport and I would miss my 5K run. So I did 5K inside of the terminal. It was about 7 laps. Security started getting worried when I went past them for the 4th time.
Casing the joint, so to speak. So since you've built and sold companies before, I mean, do you architect StoreConnect with acquisition readiness in mind? Sounds like it's a very special endeavor of yours.
Yeah, look, if StoreConnect in any direction, at some point, it's probably going to get acquired, sold, invested into, or go public. Like it'll be one of those 4 or 5 options. Salesforce might buy it, someone else might buy it. It could be, there's all sorts of angles. But I have sold 4 companies in the past. So I'm very aware about the things that make a company sellable or not. And because I have that knowledge, I just build the company in that direction anyway. Because making a company sellable is actually best practice for management and accounting anyway. So, because that's all really an acquirer is trying to do is look at, do the books make sense? Are there any sort of weird intercompany loans? And, does the CEO pay themselves a wage, or is that missing from the bank balance? Things like this. So I've always built my companies now that I've got that experience in that method anyway, and it just makes us more flexible. There's nothing on the roadmap right now. I'm still growing the business. I think we have a huge amount we can grow. I've got something coming out in about a month that's going to blow the minds of planet Earth, I hope.
In the positive way, of course.
Huh?
In the positive way, of course, yes.
Yeah. So, that's all happening in the background. Where that goes, who knows? I'm just happily building and saving people so much time. One of my favorite quotes was this person, just on saving people time and building a good platform. This person left us a message on our App Exchange listing. You can go and read it. Paraphrased, it says something like, I just completed the StoreConnect Academy. Honestly, it's the best training I've ever had in my Salesforce career because it's practical and to the point, and you actually build the website. And that really encapsulates what we're trying to do for our architects. We're trying to build something that gives them an actual Swiss Army knife that they can have in their back pocket. And anytime the client comes on and goes, we need to woofle the toofle with the wiffle coming through on the side and make sure that it does this, they just go, oh yeah, I could just do that with StoreConnect. And this is what I'm trying to build as a platform, is just that really simple to use, but intentionally capable to be customized in any direction that you need. So the simple stuff just gets handled. That takes no time. But if you want to do something really insane, you can. I mean, we've had clients build an entire shipping provider plugin on the front end of StoreConnect, which is wild that you can even contemplate doing that. But it just shows how powerful the front end of StoreConnect can be.
I wish we had more time so you can tell me more just about that, the shipping on StoreConnect.
Liquid controllers. So with StoreConnect on the front end, you can have a before action and an after action. And the before action can be a set of liquid code. And that liquid code can include secure API calls to third-party websites. So you can have a liquid code running where in the before action, it looks at the cart, and depending on what page you're on, because you wouldn't want to fire this every single page, but say you're on the shipping page, it then does an API request with secured credentials that the customer can't see because they never show up in the browser, because this is happening before the page is rendering, and goes off and gets the shipping rates, brings it back in, populates the local variables, and then those local variables are used to populate the page when the page renders. And you could do that in StoreConnect. You can't do that in Shopify, for example. And in Experience Cloud, you could probably do it, but now you're paying API calls. You'd have to have a logged in user, like all the other things that would be involved around that.
So I would say anytime I hear that, well, the system is so flexible, you can do X, Y, and Z and push it to the limit and beyond. So the flip side of that is that you could be creating a lot of technical debt. So that's just something to always keep in mind, that this is the responsibility part, right? So you get the power that you can do all these things, but the responsibility is you want to keep it clean.
Yeah. So that's why our practice is always try and do everything you can in Salesforce.
There we go.
Only when you need that live interactivity would you put it into StoreConnect on the front end. And honestly, 99% of all of our builds are all in Salesforce.
Oh, happy to hear it. So one last question. So if Salesforce announced tomorrow that they were releasing a fully native SMB commerce engine, so fully native SMB commerce engine, small business, medium-sized business, what would you double down on? Essentially,
keep going, because honestly, they've done that twice to me in the last 8 years, and both of them have turned out to be failures.
Okay, give me an example. What do you mean there?
Well, remember they had B2B commerce,
right?
And then they announced we've got B2B2C commerce, and it's just native on Salesforce, and it's awesome, and all the SMBs can use it, and it was a dumpster fire of a product. In terms of, and that's not even my opinion. That's from partners that.
Yes, I've heard that same opinion before.
Yeah, and I've said, why are you using StoreConnect? Why don't you use B2B2C commerce? And they'd start laughing, from the pain they went through. And then they announced Commerce on Core, right? Which you don't see, So I think we have whatever Salesforce release next week. We have a 8-year head start to begin with, and we've built our system very intentionally to be highly flexible and simple for architects and people to use, right? We have clients running multi-thousand page websites who are not Salesforce admins. She was head of marketing, and she went and did a basic StoreConnect course, and she now manages the entire website for this organization in her spare time. So you don't need to be an architect to run StoreConnect even. You just need to be someone who's a user who's willing to learn a little bit. And yeah, we just doubled down on that. The other thing that we would do is we'd probably announce a HubSpot integration or some other sideline thing. I mean, that's probably coming at some point anyway. And we would just be the hub for commerce. So I'm no longer concerned about that. We just keep putting our best foot forward, and it just works. The other thing to bear in mind is that 50% of our clients are new logos to Salesforce. So Salesforce.
So they love you for this.
Because we bring them more deals, 54%. We bring them more deals than they bring us. More clients buy Salesforce because of StoreConnect than buy StoreConnect because of Salesforce. And
yet you don't necessarily resell licenses. It's not an OEM situation where you lock people into their own instance of, as you don't control their instance of Salesforce. No. So, the last thing that just kind of popped into my mind is you were saying that you don't have to be an architect to architect StoreConnect. So that's, I don't know if that's good or bad news.
Simple case, yeah.
Well, it's fantastic news for those who are not architects, and maybe not the best thing to hear if you are an architect. But I'm just thinking the barrier to entry into Salesforce 10 years ago was very low. I mean, that's how I got into Salesforce. I just knew back in 2016, in the early days of 2016, how to convert a lead. And then I got my admin cert, and then boom, I got my first job as a senior business analyst. Senior only in age in that time, not in knowledge. But it's gotten much harder. The ecosystem arguably has become a bit more closed than it used to be. So it sounds like if you really wanted to be competitive and a new entrant into Salesforce, obviously learn the basics, but then learn StoreConnect and see if you can actually, that's your way in, probably. Would you say you would recommend that?
Yeah, I think we have 3 or 4 partners, brand new Salesforce SI partners that are launching their business as StoreConnect first partners.
Mm-hmm.
So
imagine
they're
that.
going, we're only selling StoreConnect Salesforce builds, and they're doing well because there's a lot of partners out there like Banjax who have clients, but they don't have any front end. That they haven't invested already in building front end skills because there has been no front end solution that they could use, and none of their clients ever asked them for it. Right?
And there was no need with Salesforce, right? It's just not a thing.
And whatever front end, like Banjax does have some front end skills, but they get used up very, very quickly, right? So there's always this overflow work, and these partners are just contacting the 130 Salesforce SI partners we have signed up, saying, "Hey, if you have any StoreConnect front end work that you need help with, let me know." I mean, it really is quite interesting. But yeah, you can, as a brand new Salesforce admin, you can go to StoreConnect.academy. And even if you haven't achieved your admin cert, you're just eager, go to StoreConnect.academy and do the 3 courses there. They're all free. They're all instructor-led, which means the instructor is actually going to talk to you through the process of building it and making sure you get it right. And by the end of those 3 courses, you will know how to build, set up, and design nonprofit StoreConnect websites, and then go to nonprofits that qualify for the 10 free Salesforce orgs. They will also qualify for our Power of Us StoreConnect solution, which costs only a couple $100 a month, and go in and say, look, I'm going to replace your entire website and point of sale system with StoreConnect. You get free 10 licenses on Salesforce. I will do it as a work experience project, and then I'll look after you for the next 2 years. But I need you as a case study, and build out their entire website, turn off their WordPress, turn off their point of sale system, turn off their Fundraisely, turn off all of these other systems, save them $20,000 a year in fees, which goes to their mission, turn that into a case study, and then go show the next nonprofit, hey, I just did this for them. We saved them $20,000 a year in license fees and increased their ability to sell by 10%. I can do the same thing for you. It's going to cost $50,000.
So there's your blueprint.
There's your blueprint. You could do that today. You could start rebuilding a nonprofit's website by, 6 days from now.
So now you've got mission, right? So something that comes with either any kind of a mission-driven project.
Yeah. You've got mission, you've got saving, you've got the feel-good feeling that you're doing it, you're advancing your career. It's just the ultimate. I would love a whole bunch of people to do that. We don't make a lot of money out of our nonprofit StoreConnect license. So basically, if the nonprofit is doing less than $2.5 million a year of operational expenses, I think it is, might be $2 million. It's when you're installing StoreConnect, it actually tells you on the installer, as long as their operational budget, so not their total fundraising, but how much they're paying the staff, the rent, all that sort of thing. As long as that's below a certain threshold of a couple of million, you can get StoreConnect for $295 a month, which is full e-commerce, full website, full point of sale system, all the payment gateways, subscriptions, memberships, rewards, hidden pages, multi-site, all of that in your Salesforce org. And then you go to Salesforce and apply for the P10 licenses. You get 10 free enterprise sales cloud licenses.
In perpetuity, yeah.
In perpetuity. So for $295 a month.
That's US dollars, right? Or Australian dollars.
US dollars, but you get all of that. I mean,
that's amazing.
It's ridiculous.
So no add-on feature licenses to buy. It's all included.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really powerful. Makes me want to Well, I'm thankfully already part of the partner that actually has a StoreConnect partnership.
They just did this with Habitat, right? So, that's exactly the route that I would take. If I was an admin looking for work right now, becoming an architect and getting a job in the traditional world is getting harder and harder and harder.
Yes.
You got to differentiate yourself. If you can show that you've already done it, right? And even going for a job at a Deloitte or something, if you walk in the door and they say, well, why should we hire you? And you say, well, I went off my own bat and I found a charity that I really love. And I migrated the charity to Salesforce using StoreConnect. And this is the outcome. And these are all the savings they did. And this is how I handled these architectural decisions. That employer is going to go, you what?
By yourself.
By yourself?
Well, in the army of agents, right? Using MCP, A2A, and all of that sort of thing, which you just said was possible, right?
Yeah, but even if you did use all of that, that shows initiative, that shows drive. That's what I would be recommending. And our support team, you're not actually doing it alone, because any client that does that, or any architect or any admin that wants to do that, gets full support from our support team to make sure it all works. And, just saying to architects out there, find a nonprofit that you love and just do this for them, right? And make their life simpler. And I think it's really good also for architects to do something like this, because architects tend to get abstracted into the solution quite often and can get to a point where they're not dealing with a customer very often.
Yes.
And I think it's quite important to re-ground yourself every whatever,
Sure, absolutely agree.
It's not there anymore. Salesforce removed it. We now have to add that. That's something. So taking ownership of a little nonprofit that you love and building them on Salesforce and giving them all the bells and whistles. Sure, it's going to take you time, but it's almost like a learning process. And do it with StoreConnect, and they'll get it much cheaper than what they're paying for all their other SaaS licenses anyway. It'll actually save them money.
Fantastic. Win-win all around. Well, thank you so much. As usual, you answered all of my technical and business questions. You're like this magical package all rolled into one. The CEO that I know who is as technical as one can get. And that was what inspired me during Architect Dreaming, because I'm used to asking the types of questions and then people are like, is he trying to stump me on purpose? I'm like, no, I'm genuinely curious. And usually they say, well, I need to reach out to this team member or that team member or what have you. And I didn't have to do that with you. So you just basically I said, okay, what makes it a patentable feature? And then why is it 2-second thing? And you didn't have to say, well, I need to call my CTO or whatever. Like, no, boom, here's your answer. And the pull request is, right? So you're using that sort of terminology that makes you extremely credible. So kudos to you and thank you so much. Really appreciate you taking the time, and I had fun. I don't know if you had fun, but I definitely had a lot of fun here. So,
absolutely, we'll do it again.
All right, sir.
Okay.
Ciao. Take good care. Bye bye.